Your works include squares, public kitchens, amphitheaters, and public space is shown to be one of the most challenging dimensions of urban landscape, dealing with property, economy, cultural integration, management, blah, blah, blah. And in addition, urban transformation have often compromised public space, producing a multitude of neglected places and abandoned places. So what is public space for you, and how do you think it's perceived from users, from citizens?
Well, public space, it's mostly space in between buildings, in between constructed buildings. And it can be voided spaces with no meaning sometimes, but it could also be some places well, people can get together. Well, and in a certain way, it's also it's also the space where you can dispute the city, where you can in a certain way get everyone together, get everyone from all classes, get everyone from all colors, get everyone from all genders. So this is that's the thing we like to work on public space. So I would say that public space in the city, it's mostly spaces, all spaces in between buildings, even roads or streets are public spaces to be disputed. Now with the things of walkability or bikes, so this is and we do think that it's a kind of an issue because it's mostly public.
And do you think that people understand this? Like when you work with people, when you do projects,
Mm-hmm.
People perceive these these dimensions, or they just cross it, they go through it, and they don't really realize it, understand it, or give it the value that it has?
Well, more and more, mostly Western countries tend to individualize people. So this idea that you just have to take care of the things that are yours, in the sense that you're just owned by you. So inside of your home or your door, you have to take care of it. Outside, it's a space with it's intended to be. Normal people refer to that as the space for the state, and something that the state is something that is quite far from that. It's not that. So the work is mostly how to make people feel that it's also their space. It's also their common space, that they could use it and reuse it. So in a certain way, and all the politics for the last couple of years or decades had been from the state politics, had been a little bit making you feel that they are not yours. For example, when they license cafe, how do you call it? The chairs for a cafe and tables for a cafe, you're just using public space, which is from everyone, but you are renting it and making you feel uncomfortable in certain spaces. So, and not making you part of the discussion. So not making you part of the discussion, what should it be, if it makes sense or not makes sense. So, and you have another issue, because it's mostly, public spaces are mostly the spaces that you feel much the insecurity that you have. So all the speeches about, for example, the far right just takes it off the idea of being unsecure public spaces. So you have to put police there. You have to. So, but if it's used, if it's really the common space, if really people feel that it's their space, or if they intervene, if they recognize, for example, one wall that was painted by them or something, then it starts to change, and it also starts to be a much more secure and safe space for everyone. So, for example, one thing that we are now starting to work on, it's this idea of, because also, for example, EU funding are really going through a process of, with the far right getting in the parliament, so they are asking money for security issue, which is mostly money for well, arm dealing and building walls on the borders of Europe, of European Union, and in fact, we do think that mostly to create a safer city, it's on the public space that you have to, with local commerce, with local shops, with people just living it, and that's how you can organize it with everyone. So this is the thing. If you want to work in security, you have to work on the public space. You have to work with everyone that is on the public space, without and mostly abolishing barriers, trying to work with everyone so that people start to know by their names, even though they not connect professionally or they don't connect as neighbors, even though they don't connect socially. But if they start to interact as neighbors, then they start to construct a much safer space in the city.
And I saw you have, so on your website you have a blog,
Yep.
of blog where you put updates on the researches you're doing, and you work also a lot with workshops and this kind of tools. And there are obviously several levels of how to involve people, how to engage people. So can you tell me a bit what's your process of engagement, which also sometimes it's like you coming in the middle of something that it's already happening maybe.
Yeah. Well, we don't have a model of participation or going well, and sometimes we do fail a lot, in the sense that, for example, I remember in the street of Maravilha, that was a place that we started to work in 2014. We started by doing some meetings in some restaurants. It was an area that was, well, it's in between developments, so it's in between two areas in the city of Lisbon. One that is nearby the riverbanks of Tejo, which is it's the trendiest place now, with the artistic scene, with the creative city and everything. So, and formerly it was the industrial area of Lisbon. So it has huge spaces. So it's changing a lot, it's gentrifying a lot in this area. And then you have the social housing area of Lisbon, which is also in Maravilha. So, but in between, you have a space that we started to work on, and which is mostly the space where you have a lot of people that are in pension, but they work. It's really the working class from the oriental part of the city, and that they are now in pension. So very old neighborhoods. And we started by doing some meetings in restaurants. They identify some places, mapping, etc. And then at a certain point, after 1 year of working, we started to say, okay, let's try to get it formalized with an association or something. And in fact, we did knock at everyone's door, like 200 houses, and we tried to do a meeting on a Saturday afternoon, and only 2 persons appeared to this meeting. So, and we just said, for example, okay, that's not the way you have to do it. And these people don't want an association, a formal association. So to work with them, let's open the office here. So we didn't move the office as well. We moved the team that was working there, started to work daily there. So with an open door. And that started to, in a certain way, to do a movement where we can start it. They started to ask to program cultural events as cinema. They wanted to see cinema, so we started to, at each Thursday we have a film projection. Then we organize a lecture from someone from the neighborhood that we announce all over the neighborhood about the story of their life. So where did they work? So, and they were the guys that were doing this lecture with the guys that were also promoting it. So they wanted everyone to come. So, and that started to have a movement so that we also can discuss. In that case, it was not the public. It was not a public space, but a palace that is there from the municipality. But that is well, it was supposed to be sold because it would be the next fantastic hotel of the city, luxury, because it was a former palace, so it's a huge area. And people decided, no, we want housing here. We want new families coming here. So we don't want this to be. We want this to stay public, which is an agreement that we already had from the mayor, saying that okay, we will do it a participatory process here and in fact we think that in the next couple of months we will be moving there again to do with the people around all the process of project, reopening the door of the palace and trying to do a. But it's all we don't have like a matrix when we arrived. We started to test some ways of doing it and correct it. That's why it's also difficult to say it sometimes. It's not difficult to say it the time we are to do a time schedule, but it's difficult to say what is the solution. So, for example, I remember when there is now in Portugal everyone talks about participation, and you have you have some competitions, architectural formal competitions, saying we want participation. And I remember, for example, one for housing in Lisbon that we participated, and they in the program they were always talking about this movement of participation. You have to have meetings, etc., etc. And in the proposal we did, we said, okay, we cannot produce an image of architecture because that's something for the participation process. We really don't know still how to do it. We arrived the last. We were the last, and so we were the worst pointed because we have no image to present, and that's the thing that I think it's failing a lot. So we are forced. We are forced to go against, so to compete for bids and for to getting to get a procurement, to get a contract. And this type of work that we do with other collectives are much more symbiotic. We work together. I don't want to compete with others on Thalia. I don't want to compete with Assemble. I want to join forces, you know. So that's totally, and the approach of the European bids or as it is imposed in national level, it's really difficult to have participatory process in this kind of competitions. How do you explain? Of course, normally we tend to explain we are starting a process of architecture, so which will be participatory, which will be tested some things at a certain point. We'll do some exhibitions to discuss this. We'll do, but still, we are still thinking on the idea that participation is the architect that is going to show his project and his idea for the place, and that's it. And people will react or not to that. And that's a very old-fashioned thing. So I think the process of public procurement are not adapted to this kind of works still.
Yeah, which links to what we were saying before, like the institutional path and legislations and permits and all these are still kind of outdated, or they don't manage to follow up with this kind of processes which are inclusive, which are temporary, which are experimental, and they have this. So what are the, I don't know, in your opinion, the weakest point in this process? Like, so when dealing with institutions and when realizing this kind of projects?
Well, first of all, this idea that I was talking, that you are formed to compete with others. So if they lose, it's better for you because you're winning. You're maybe winning. And for example, I remember when we started the blog, the website, we also announced, and now we don't have much time for the blog, so we lost a little bit I'd say we lost a little bit the connection that it had. But in the beginning, we start also to release what others were doing. And there were lots of friends of us saying that you're being stupid because you're announcing others and not promoting yourself. And the thing were always answering in 2005 when we started was, no, for us it's much better that people started to get new processes, to stretch the boundaries of architecture, of our practice, which is in the end, it's much more than architecture. It starts by the architecture, or it has the instruments of architecture because it's the instruments we have or we were teach. But in a certain way, if people are stretching it, that we have to, it will be also good for everyone. So we always use this idea of being symbiotic. And I think still the laws are made to compete, to not show the work to the others, not saying what you're doing, so that's a thing that has to change. So that I feel that that it changed on contemporary process of architecture. On the other hand, well, normally we do illegal things. So we are in a kind of system that we try to, for example, the communitarian kitchen, there was no really law that could be used to do this project. But well, in the end of was the issue was about well, it was about water, getting water into a neighborhood. So the municipality decided, okay, this is a humanity issue. So it goes right, well, it's upon the law, you know. So, and in fact, really the big project of it was the line of water that arrived to the place, to the neighborhood. Then you have the building, but it's temporary building still. So as, for example, we always said to the municipality that we would not fight for the idea that the neighborhood will stay there, because it's an ecological area, it's an agricultural area, and we do think that it should stay like that. And we think that people should be moved there to a place nearby, which is the idea of the right to the place that we defend. It's not the idea of building on the same spot, but the idea of building on an area where you can stay with the same relations on transports, or kids could stay at the same schools, so that you could be around, but not on the same spot, because we don't defend that should be constructed there, or we don't defend that this shanty town should be improved, or if it has to be improved, because we don't agree that people live in that conditions, you know. So, and that's a statement that was quite clear for us from the beginning, and we tried to be very clear to the public authorities when we arrived. What are our boundaries, what we can do and not. And also to the people, of course, in the beginning there was a tension, because we arrived there and we said, not in the beginning, but like after 1 year of working in Terras da Costa, we said, look, our opinion, if you want to fight for your houses there, it won't be our fight. You can do it, you can decide to do it, but it's not our fight, because we think you should have proper houses with tap water inside of your house. So that's something, and it did some tensions, of course, this kind of a statement, but we want to be clear because of course we didn't arrive there saying that, because we have to analyze it before, we have to think and also discuss collectively, what do you think? And then we arrive also and we hear, but we arrive and we say, okay, this is our boundaries, because we have a role as architects in the participatory process. It's not that we don't tend to say it, well, it has to be a good space afterwards, even if it's a public space. If it's, I really do feel very upset when I hear like people saying, okay, this is a participatory process, it's not great. the result, but it was participatory, everyone was engaged, and etc., etc., and that's not my feeling. It should be great, it should be much better, it should be the best place. So, and you're there also to say your opinion as technician, not as so you have a role there. For me, it's quite clear that, and you are not doing everything that people tell you to do. You're in the dispute. It doesn't mean that you don't negotiate also, but of course, when well, yesterday I was talking with people from ATELIER. They were saying a very nice thing that made me think. When you arrive to the normal family that comes to us saying that they want their houses. Okay, you just don't say that. Okay, I know everything about you. Just going to do the project, and then because you don't know how many kids do they have, how many, if they eat alone or if they eat all together, if it's important the kids a big kitchen or not, a small kitchen. So you have to ask a lot of things. So when you go to a public space, you also have to understand that kind of things. You don't know everything. So, but that's the matter of to design the program. It's an issue, and normally, for example, in architectural bids, you already have the program designed, and you don't have much flexibility on redesigning. For example, sometimes I think that makes sense that you have two phases of someone that discuss the program, and then the bid itself could be afterwards. It might be an issue. For example, we were invited in something that did not go forward also in Lisbon some years ago. We were in we were called by the municipality to see to visit the bigger house for how you call it, homeless people. So where they go there and sleep. It's like 300, 400 people that sleep there, and it's a chaotic place. And the idea, well, the municipality didn't know what to do and how to organize it because it had to be renewed, but they don't have any, so it had to be renewed, but it couldn't be closed. So it should be phased, all the processes, and we said, contract us to do to program and to design the competition, that we will not run for it, but it will be an open competition afterwards. But we will do this until the program, because it also has a lot of things of architecture on this kind of constructing them. Well, it's design the process.
Yeah, no, I'm curious to know if it's always like this. So is it always that there is this very dense process of negotiation and like physically you being like discussing with people, and then a design arrive, or if sometimes it's the opposite. So you produce a design that works almost as an infrastructure or as a I don't know, starting point, and then something happen, and then the public space evolve, or the project evolves, and then blah, blah, blah.
Well, I think it can both. I think we will use both. It's a matter of tactic in a certain way. For example, in the kitchen, I remember we didn't manage to discuss the kitchen with the people there. We did a lot of meetings, which were quite nice because, well, they were living in a shanty town. They were going to the meeting in the office of the architect, so it was very nice. But the discussion in the end was all about when does the water comes. So, and we did realize at a certain point, okay, we have to hear a little bit on their goals, but we have to do it, to produce it, to start to produce it. In fact, when we started the kitchen, we started with the wood from Casa de Vapor, that Alex Homer called me in August, I remember, saying, okay, I have a lot of wood, please, if you want to take it to do the kitchen. And we started and I said, yes, but we don't know how to construct because our collective, it's not with ATELIER MOB. Well, we don't construct. Sometimes we help, but we don't have that skills. So we didn't do much more project in a sense, and we don't have the skills, and that's how Alex connected us with Collective Warehouse. So the Casa de Vapor was dismantled, and the wood went to the first phase of the kitchen, and we didn't have the authorization. So we just called to the municipality saying, please don't send us the police, because that neighborhood was the police interventions were very hard. Please just be aware that we are starting. And we started, and they went there, and they follow up the thing. And they already knew that our goal was not to make people stay there, but to start something. So this kind of transparency was quite important then and now. So in a certain way, it helped to start by doing something. But it was not a lot discussed, because we asked things. Well, they just decided two things that were quite important: where to locate the kitchen in the neighborhood, and they decided in the area that was the drug traffic, the drug dealing. So, and to occupy that area. And it was very funny, because we totally, well, not totally, but it decreased so much, because it had to be, the kitchen occupied it, and it decreased from the first years. It decreased a lot, drug dealing just staying there, because the kitchen was occupied by kids that were playing there. So, and then on the other hand, they decided also, the big issue was, the kitchen is supposed to be open or well, it's going to be closed or totally open. And they decided, no, we want to close it, but we just closed a little bit, which is the key issue. It's an issue since then. So the owner, who has the key, and in fact they decided 3 years ago that it should be us, which is a kind of a pressure for us that, but well, it's a very intense process. We're still there. Now with the municipality changed, and the municipality has a totally different politics on the neighborhood. They just left the neighborhood with no one. So right now we are by our own there. We're dealing with a lot of difficulties, but still there, because we really don't want to leave it, because the kitchen was just an excuse to try to show that problem and to try to emancipate them. So it's part of the process. The thing I always say is that for us, that kitchen really it got a lot of awards and well, not a lot, but it was very mediatic, the kitchen. But I'm always saying that the big award that we can have for that kitchen, it's on the day it's dismantled, saying that it will be the last building, and everyone will be rehoused and at the proper place, all together as a community that they are.
Yeah, this is because it's funny, because I've been, we are losing the silence. I went to Lisbon 2 years ago, and just like randomly, I was looking at them, okay, let's go to the seaside, and I saw this little tip of sand, and I was like, okay, let's go there, and it was covered with water. So, and we went there super randomly, not because it's not a famous destination in Lisbon, and it was such an amazing discovery. Like, you arrive in this fisherman village, looks like, you know, like with these little houses, and then there were, I don't know if it was 2 years ago or 3, there were still some wooden pieces left over from Casa do Vapor, or some painting in the library, and then when I started my research, I connected all the dots. Yeah, and I think, kind of summarizing the points. So we started saying, okay, what is public space? And it's about meeting and having different people together in the same place, and it's very challenging because it's a place of conflict. But when these merge also with the idea of community, because it's not so obvious, like I mean from my point of view, I mean, like, idealistically it would be amazing if every piece of public space would be perceived as a community space, as in its community dimension, but it's not always so obvious.
Yeah.
But for example, this example you're making of the community kitchen, it's very powerful, I think, because then design kind of helps in visualizing maybe this thing, and I don't know, like what do you like, also like looking at other projects you've done. I don't know, I'm thinking maybe about the amphitheater and I'm sorry.
We have several amphitheaters, but it's probably the products one.
Yeah, also, the product, but also in Sarkavem, your project in Sarkavem.
One of our first
This,
projects.
like, in between spaces. So maybe like if you can like just touch a couple of projects like this too, and to deepen a bit this idea of like I don't know, architecture visualizing this idea of community or becoming an excuse to tell a story.
Well, products is very interesting process there, because we started by doing the it's a self-constructed neighborhood from before the revolution. So during fascist regime, people that were living in shanty towns around Lisbon, they were, well, I'd say a little bit forced to construct their own houses throughout a cooperative, and they built these two neighborhoods, first with 80 houses, and the other one, which is the north part of Product, in the south part with 458 houses. So it's around 2,000 people living here, and we started to, they didn't get in the first master plan of Lisbon, piano regolatore, master plan of Lisbon. This was all a green area, because it was seen as bad architecture, because it's self-built. It wasn't a very interesting way of building, but it has a lot of problems of the building, and they, in the end, until 2012, they didn't have the building permit, so they were just paying a rent to the municipality, saying that they were renting the plot. And they have a lot of legal issues. They couldn't be recognized as owners of the houses, even though they built it with an authorization. One of the things that it was, and we started to work with them as technical support to them. For example, one issue that was very important is that we started not to refer to them as an illegal house, but as a non-regularized house, because they have an authorization of the municipality to build there from the 70s. So step by step we started to do with that. We got the building permit. It was very, very difficult also to get throughout all the legislation, but we managed to regularize almost all the houses in the north part, a lot also in the south part. It's still under process, so we are in 2020, and there are still people that we have signed out the paper, so it's been 8 years of work there in both neighborhoods. And one of the things that we say is that when we come in a neighborhood, we never go back, we never step back. But with Product, the second issue was that, okay, we got in all the houses almost of the inhabitants. At a certain point we said, okay, bye-bye. Then we are leaving, and they said, no, just stay, because we have a lot of architectonical issues still. And we started to decide on a public meeting what should be done on public space, and we said, okay, let's run for a competition for funding that could be also create a kind of a grant of workers, because there was a lot of unemployment of people around 30, 40s in the neighborhood, so which will be the sons and daughters of people that built the neighborhood. and let's try to give them some competence, but working on the neighborhoods, but not as volunteers, as with this grant should be paid. And it was very funny because we did like 3-4 years of working in several things. People were paid and they maintained until now, so they are very engaged with the neighborhoods. And it was them that in the north part, clearly they decided we managed to do everything, and we managed also to do, we still have some works to do on the auditorium, but still they already have it. On the south part, which is bigger, so with the 458 houses, we said we listed all the problems they identified in the public space. We grouped, and we said, okay, we have here a list, 8 groups of projects, 8 groups of interventions that we have to do it. You have to decide the rank of priorities, and we start by this, this, and this, and we have 8 groups, and we arrived already to the 6th, to finance the 6th, so it's just missing 2 until now. But also doing with the grant of workers there, with a group of workers, so even though we don't build, we managed to, for example, we managed to get, as an architectural conventional office, there are lots of materials that want to work with us, and they said, we are interested in working with you, but you have to do this. You have to put your materials here in this neighborhood. You have to tell how to use it to the people there, and it creates also a very interesting thing to sometimes they don't care about the things, but we already have some of the companies that are very engaged on this because they understood it also has some visibility. So it's a thing that still, and then now they want to work with us normally in this kind of projects. So that's also the way that you can feel that architectural offices are needed also to, even though we don't build, we do technical support, and we give technical support from the companies that are putting their products there. So that's how we achieved also to do another open air theater in Prodac, which was a very nice process, very hard for them also, because it was difficult to build, even though it's just staircase, and it was. We didn't expect it. It was the project that was chosen in first to be done. Also because it has a staircase that connects the 2 levels of the neighborhood. So, and is in the center. And the south part, well, the north part also, but the south part, I think it's the most engaged neighborhood in Lisbon, because I've been there for the last couple of years in the annual meetings that they have, and I never saw a meeting with less than 200 people. So it's amazing. And people talk and they act, and that's really a funny thing. Funny and very engaging.